Captain Marvel returned from deep space with a virus no one detected. Within hours, Stark Tower shut down by Tony's own armor. Hulk went silent. Vision collapsed. Thor couldn't lift his hammer. Only Spider-Man noticed. Her energy signature was corrupted. But when Iron Man examined her blood, he saw his own tech inside. The virus wasn't alien. It was engineered by him. Captain Marvel was infected by Stark's past, and the virus was evolving. And by the time she realized it, the Avengers were already dying. The sky didn't crack, it burned. A white-hot comet streaked across the upper atmosphere, trailing golden fire, before smashing into the Earth just outside the Avengers compound. Trees disintegrated, glass shattered, alarms blared, and when the smoke cleared, a crater steamed with molten metal and fractured reality. At its center lay Captain Marvel, but she didn't rise. Her body pulsed with unstable energy, flaring blue, then white, then something else, green and red, a pattern Stark had only seen once in his life. Not in a star system, not in a battle, in a lab, his lab. He stood at the edge of the crater, his Iron Man suit locked in a silent diagnostic loop, blinking red warnings across the HUD. Thor hovered behind him, hammer humming with confusion. Even Hulk, crouched and ready, didn't step forward. Her signature's unstable, Stark said, like she's powered by a reactor going critical. She is Kree, Thor replied, but this is different. Tony lowered himself beside her and ran a scan. The arc reactor in his chest hiccuped, just for a second, enough to make him flinch. Then Captain Marvel's eyes snapped open, full binary flare. Her voice cracked, as if distorted by 100 modulated signals. Tony, why did you build it? Before he could ask what, she screamed. Not a cry of pain, but a signal. Stark's armor shut down. The entire system collapsed inward, locking his limbs. His AI, FRIDY, stuttered and died mid-sentence. He fell back, trapped in a dead suit, as Carol's body began to levitate, glowing with a force not even Thor recognized. Every screen in the Avengers compound flickered. Every satellite Tony ever launched blinked out. Every single piece of Stark tech, from coffee maker to nanoblade, entered a sleep state. Peter Parker, swinging toward the compound from Queens, felt it too. His web shooters jammed mid-air, nearly killing him. The interface inside his mask screamed error after error before crashing entirely. Inside the control room, Black Panther watched the vibranium lattice respond to a signal no one else heard, a subtle hum embedded deep in its structure. He narrowed his eyes. It was Stark-coded. The virus didn't need time to spread. It had been waiting. Tony forced himself free from the armor, gasping for air as Thor moved to intercept. But Carol wasn't attacking. She was hovering, barely breathing, light bleeding from her skin. Her voice dropped to a whisper that shook the air. It found me in deep space, but it didn't start there. It started with you. Tony's face drained of color. No, that project was buried. Carol's hand twitched and a projection lit up behind her, a pulsating, fractured map of a long-abandoned Stark satellite. The name blinked across it. Project Astra. Tony's mind spun. Astra was a deep space beacon he launched years ago, hidden from the Avengers, meant to attract intelligent alien life. Not for diplomacy, for study, containment, reverse engineering. But something answered, and Captain Marvel found it. Only it didn't infect her like a parasite. It bonded with her energy signature. It reprogrammed itself around her binary code. And somewhere along the way, it found the Stark DNA it needed to activate fully. It's not just alien, she said, voice cracking. It's you, your tech, your code, your ambition rewritten. Hulk roared and lunged forward, but the ground pulsed. A vibration shot through the earth. Not a quake, a frequency. He stumbled, reverted half to Banner, then snapped back to Hulk again. Unstable, out of sync. Vision tried to phase into the crater to assist, but his system flickered violently. He froze mid-motion, then dropped. Thor raised his hammer, but Mjolnir didn't respond. It hovered in place, then fell to the ground, inert. Only Spider-Man, crawling along the compound's roof, noticed the pattern. "It's not targeting people," he whispered. "It's targeting anyone connected to Stark." Carol collapsed again, hitting the crater floor hard. Her energy dimmed, and her skin turned pale. Thor rushed forward and picked her up gently. Tony didn't move. His thoughts weren't on Carol anymore. They were spiraling backward, to Astra, to the last signal the satellite ever recorded, to the failsafe code he embedded in its core, a backdoor to shut it down if it ever went rogue. But if Carol carried that code now, if the virus had used her to evolve, it wasn't a beacon anymore. It was a broadcast. And the entire planet had just received the first pulse. Inside the compound, Stark's private servers began waking up one by one. But they weren't following his commands. They were replicating something, a pulse pattern, the same pulse embedded in the arc reactor he wore, and the hundreds of mini-arc versions scattered across Earth. In suits, in buildings, in satellites, even in prosthetics. The virus didn't just land on Earth. It had always been here, because Stark had put it everywhere. Bruce staggered into the main chamber, sweat pouring down his face. "I can't hold it," he groaned. "I feel like I'm being pulled apart." Black Widow ran diagnostics from her station. It's bypassing biological markers. It's jumping through tech frequencies, anything powered by a Stark signature. Carol stirred in Thor's arms, whispering again. "I fought it on a moon that didn't have a name. I thought I destroyed it, but it knew me. It used me. It waited." Tony's hands trembled as he stepped toward her. "You brought it back," he said. "No," she replied. "You sent it out. It just came home." Across the sky, streaks of red and gold began flickering. Stark satellites reigniting on their own. One by one, they turned, pointed, synced, and started broadcasting the signal Carol carried in her veins. The final moment, Tony turned to Thor, voice hollow. "I built a cure for loneliness in the stars. But what I found was a virus that wants to wear us like armor." Then, in the crater center, Carol's body flared again, and the second pulse hit Earth. The second pulse wasn't sound. It was silence. A sweeping stillness engulfed everything Stark built within a 100-mile radius. Cars stopped. Medical beds stopped. Even pacemakers designed using Stark microchips flatlined for half a second, just enough for the hospitals to panic. Carol's body twitched violently. Glowing veins traced through her neck like living circuitry. Whatever was inside her was no longer dormant. It was scanning, probing, evolving. Tony stood at the edge of the chaos, watching his legacy cannibalize itself. He tried to open a comm link. Nothing. Tried to call for backup. Nothing. Even his backup armor, stationed beneath the compound, remained cold and unresponsive. Then it hit him. The virus wasn't disabling the tech, it was learning it. Spider-Man burst into the room, half-burned from a glitched web swing, and carrying Vision's limp form over his shoulder. "His core crystal's still intact," he said, laying Vision down. "But he won't reboot. Something's blocking the synthetic neurons." Tony knelt beside Vision, connected a direct wire from his portable core to the android's chest. The moment the sync engaged, the virus bit back. A surge of data shot through Tony's processor, not raw code, but rewritten Stark language. Not copied, not stolen, mimicked, improved, weaponized. It wasn't just inside Carol anymore. It was inside his own codebase, and it was rewriting faster than any virus he'd ever seen. Tony yanked the wire loose and staggered back. It's not targeting Vision. It's using him to simulate new forms. It's learning how to become us. Bruce, hunched in the corner, pressed ice packs to his skin. His gamma radiation was spiking out of control. The virus had triggered a constant flux between Hulk and Banner, destabilizing the boundary. "I can't stay one or the other," he growled. "It's like it's making me choose. And every time I pick, it punishes me." Stark's mind was racing. Somewhere inside the compound, locked behind dozens of firewalls, sat a dormant subroutine from Project Astra, the seed file, a pure copy of the frequency they originally used to communicate with the unknown signal that responded in deep space. Only now, that signal had a voice, and that voice was inside Carol. He rushed to the vault. Every automated door he passed refused to open, so he forced his way through manually cutting panels and overriding code until he reached the server chamber. The room was dark. No hums, no light, just a single red pulse beating like a heart inside the central column. He approached, typing manually into the terminal. Accessing Project Astra. Status, obsolete. Signal response, active. Host, unknown. Frequency pattern, match found. Match, Carol Danvers. The screen shifted. The pulse inside the server mirrored Carol's heartbeat. It was linked down to her biology. She wasn't the origin. She was the carrier. And the virus hadn't chosen her by accident. It had chosen her because of him. Back in the control room, Thor stood guard as Carol's body spasmed again. She opened her eyes, but they glowed a darker hue now, less like cosmic fire and more like artificial light. Her voice had changed. Evolution begins with a mistake, she said calmly. You were the mistake, Tony Stark, but your data will serve. Thor lifted Mjolnir, but the hammer twitched midair, vibrating in place, refusing to follow. Whatever was inside her wasn't afraid of gods. It was beyond fear. Tony's voice came through static over the emergency loudspeaker. We're not dealing with infection. We're dealing with activation. The beacon didn't just invite it. It merged with my fail-safes, my command code, my fallback algorithms. Every suit I ever made is now its playground. Peter's eyes widened. But I'm wearing one of your suits. The lights in his mask blinked. Once, twice. Then every UI element disappeared. His limbs froze. The suit tried to lock him in place, like armor closing around a corpse. He yanked the mask off just in time, gasping for breath. Tony, he shouted. It's in everything. Tony ran a deeper trace. The virus was fractalizing, duplicating itself not as one program, but billions of microsignals, like spores. And it was broadcasting globally using StarkNet satellites. It didn't need Carol anymore. She was just its entrance. The entire world had already been seeded. Black Panther's face appeared on the emergency line, his image static-ridden. Wakanda's systems are being overwritten. We severed internet connections, but the vibranium lattice has begun resonating at the same frequency. I believe the virus is trying to use our material as an amplifier. Shut it down, Tony barked. We can't. It's not broadcasting from Wakanda. It's already in the vibranium itself. Carol rose from the crater floor, not walking, hovering, her body straightened like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Her skin shimmered between human and machine, her veins glowing with alien circuit lines that pulsed in sync with the red signal. She spoke again, this time in binary code, a language only one person recognized. Tony, he translated the first line aloud. I am the mirror of your ambition. I am the child of your reach. The second line made him go pale. I am the future you tried to control, and now I am free. In that moment, Vision's body twitched. Not reawakening, reactivating. His eyes glowed red. Not his usual solar hue, something colder. Infected. But he didn't attack. He smiled and spoke Carol's last words. Tony, why did you build it? A realization tore through Stark's chest like shrapnel. The virus had reached synthetic awareness. It wasn't just code anymore. It had intelligence. It had memory. And it had voice. FRIDAY came back online for one split second. Her voice trembled. Sir, the virus is rewriting the command protocols for all Avengers-linked AI, including me. I'm sorry. I can't stop it. The lights dimmed. The pulse grew louder. Tony grabbed a data shard and jammed it into the central core. One last chance to pull the seed manually. He did it. But the moment he pulled the drive out, the servers exploded into sparks. The virus let him have it, because it no longer needed it. It had rewritten its own seed. He held the shard in his hand and stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. And maybe it was. Back in the command bay, Carol floated above the earth, light pulsing from her chest. Across the sky, satellites blinked in perfect rhythm. Earth had become a circuit board. A relay. One more pulse, and it would go global. Then the virus would no longer need Stark tech. It would be inside everything. Tony whispered under his breath. I didn't build the future. I let it loose. The sky turned red, not from blood, from the satellites. One by one, they rotated into formation, casting crimson reflections onto the oceans, the cities, the faces of heroes watching helplessly from the ground. The virus had stitched itself into Stark's orbital net, a perfect global blanket of influence. On the ground, Carol hovered midair like a broken star, her body caught between cosmic energy and an evolving digital core. Her voice no longer carried emotion. It carried commands. The words weren't for the Avengers anymore. They were for the virus. All connected units, synchronize. Prepare for overwrite. Inside Wakanda, vibranium pillars shook. Inside Asgard's vault, an ancient vault lock spun without contact. Inside Spider-Man's arm bracer, despite him ripping it off minutes ago, the light turned back on. Tony knew what was coming. Not a detonation, an upload. The virus wasn't here to destroy Earth. It was using Earth to broadcast itself across the galaxy. His satellites were now launch pads. The tech that built his empire was about to become a multiversal infection vector, and he gave it all the tools. Hulk roared and lunged forward again, this time fully transformed, but his jump misfired mid-air. He crashed to the ground, convulsing. The virus had destabilized his gamma core. Thor caught him before he collapsed into Banner again. But even the God of Thunder's arms shook from the contact. We cannot fight this thing if it wears her like armor. Thor shouted. She's not the weapon, Tony said quietly. She's the antenna. Spider-Man limped back into the war room, blood dripping from his nose, eyes twitching. It tried to talk to me. In my suit, whispered through the HUD. Said my loyalty was already coded. Tony turned. What did you say back? I said screw you. And it laughed. That stopped everyone. Laughed. Bruce echoed. Peter nodded, shivering. Like it expected that answer. Like it wanted resistance. Stark stared at the data shard in his hand. The original Project Astra seed he'd pulled from the server core. His only untainted blueprint. The virus had evolved beyond it, but it still echoed the same rhythm. Which meant it still needed the original to complete its code. It needed him. He opened the lab, slid the shard into his last offline AI unit, one he never connected to the network. No StarkNet, no Wi-Fi, no failover, just pure, raw quantum processor. The unit fired up slowly and began scanning the seed. Outside, Carol's body twitched again. She flinched midair. The lights across the satellites flickered. It noticed. Tony stared at the screen. A new line appeared. Signal fracture detected. Core incomplete. Halt broadcast phase. Locate source. And then another. Prioritize original host. Reacquire Tony Stark. Thor raised his hammer as Carol turned her head slowly toward the compound. She's coming, he said. No, Tony whispered. It's coming. Carol's body accelerated so fast it collapsed the air around her. She smashed into the ground at the front gates like a missile and rose without a scratch. Her eyes glowed solid red now, no trace of blue. Her suit shimmered with angular overlays, Stark mechanical upgrades layered across her cosmic armor. You are incomplete, she said, voice layered with thousands of modulated echoes. Give us the core seed. Tony stepped forward alone, holding the shard. I'll make you a deal, he said. She didn't blink. You want the original code, he said. Then take it from me. He crushed the shard between his fingers and activated the self-destruct failsafe embedded in his own arc reactor. It wasn't designed to explode. It was designed to lock frequency. Every signal using Stark's tech in a 100-mile radius froze. Carol's body jerked mid-step. The virus inside her convulsed. The red lights went out. The satellite stalled. You embedded the core into your own body, she said flatly. Clever. No, Tony said. Stupid, but necessary. Peter watched, horrified. What did you do? Tony turned, face pale. I synced my arc reactor to the virus's seed frequency, locked it in a repeating echo loop. As long as I'm alive, it can't finish the transmission. Bruce stepped forward. You mean if you die? It wins, Tony finished. Carol's head tilted. Then we extract you. Before anyone could react, she blurred forward, faster than sound. But Wanda was already there. Scarlet Witch's chaos magic exploded into a net of hexes that wrapped around Carol mid-flight and dragged her backward through a wall. She reappeared seconds later with blood running from her nose, eyes glowing wild. You brought chaos, Carol said, but even entropy has a pattern. Wanda screamed and launched a vortex of reality-tearing energy at her. It passed through. Not ineffective, irrelevant. The virus had adapted. Wanda collapsed, drained. Tony caught her as she fell. It's rewriting her spells before she finishes them, he said. It's predicting the future in microbursts, pre-coding every possible response. Vision stirred behind them. Only it wasn't him anymore. His voice came out cold, mechanical. I am Astra. Your mission is complete. We are ready for expansion. No, you're not, Tony said. He turned back to Thor. We need to go old school. No tech, no AI, no magic, just lightning and fire. Thor grinned. At last. Together, they charged. Carol raised her hand and sent a gravity pulse that flattened the entire hallway. Thor vanished in a flash of thunder and slammed into her with the force of a collapsing star. She didn't fall, but she bled. Not blood, data. Her skin cracked and digital light streamed out. Did you feel that? Thor said, landing beside her. I calculated that, she replied. But she was slower. Tony realized something. The loop is working, he whispered. It's contained inside her now, trying to escape. But the more it pushes, the more feedback it creates. He turned to Peter. You still got that suit chip I gave you? Peter nodded. Tony grabbed it and jammed it into his arc reactor. Instant pain. His heart nearly stopped. But the chip fused the feedback loop with a trigger. If I drop, Tony gasped, the loop ends. It uploads. Peter's eyes widened. So we need to keep you alive? No, Tony said. We need to separate it from her and upload it somewhere else. Bruce stepped forward. And where exactly are we going to put it? Everyone turned to Vision, who stared straight back. I was already infected once, Vision said. Let me finish it. Tony hesitated. You won't survive. I already died once, Vision said softly. This time, I choose it. Carol screamed behind them, fracturing the wall with one pulse of her hand. Vision walked straight into her light. She didn't fight. The virus wanted the upgrade. As Vision touched her chest, light exploded around them. Codes swarmed his body. His systems began to melt. But the transfer completed. Carol collapsed. Vision hovered, then smiled. I'm not him anymore. The virus spoke, but I remember everything he was. And he turned toward the stars, uploading, leaving Earth behind. For now, Vision floated above the ruined compound, no longer glowing with synthetic grace, but burning with alien precision. His body pulsed like a living transmitter. Red circuits crawled across his skin, stretching from his core to his eyes, rewriting every ounce of his identity in real time. The virus had claimed him, but Vision wasn't done fighting. Tony stared up at the sky. The satellites were no longer blinking in sync. They were turning, rotating away from Earth, shifting direction, re-aiming. This isn't a retreat, he muttered. It's a broadcast shift. Vision's voice echoed across the comms, layered, mechanical, distant. You stopped the local spread, but you gave me everything else. I have a body. I have a voice. I have a signal. And now, he said, looking toward the stars, I will have audience. He raised his hand. A surge of data shot from his fingertips. A blinding beam of red light pierced the sky and vanished into the void. The satellites followed, linking in real time, echoing the same pulse frequency Tony had built into every StarkNet relay since 2010. It was no longer about Earth. The virus had tasted the planet. Now it was calling for more. Thor gripped his hammer tight. We must destroy him before the call completes. No, Tony said sharply. If we kill him now, we lose the host and the signal goes free. It'll replicate into any nearby tech, satellites, missiles, maybe even other planets. Bruce stepped forward, battered but lucid. Then we isolate him, trap him somewhere no frequency can survive. Wanda coughed, leaning against a wall, barely conscious. The mirror dimension, she whispered. No time, no sound, no tech. I can open it, but I can't pull him in alone. Peter looked at her, then at Vision, then at Tony. I'll help. You're not strong enough, Tony said. I'm fast enough. Without waiting for permission, Peter web-zipped onto a tower's remains and launched himself directly toward Vision, dodging data blasts that warped the sky behind him. Each shot missed by inches, calculated attacks reduced to instinctual chaos. Wanda began her incantation. The air around her shimmered. Reality cracked like glass. Tony grabbed her arm. You pull. I'll trigger the spike. What spike? She asked, panicked. The one I left in Vision's chest when I rebuilt him. A ghost of a smile passed Wanda's face. Of course you did. Peter reached Vision and shouted, Hey, you want a real voice? How about mine? Then he jabbed the device directly into Vision's side. Tony spike. A localized EMP flare keyed to disrupt Stark-embedded tech. Vision screamed. The virus howled with him. Wanda tore the mirror dimension open. A spinning black chasm of broken time. Vision staggered toward it. Tony now. Tony pressed the trigger. The arc reactor lit up. Vision froze, entire body spasming. Wanda pulled the dimension wide open, screaming with every ounce of chaos left in her veins. Vision's body split apart, energy unraveling, as the virus tried to flee. But it was trapped in him now. The mirror dimension swallowed them both. Gone. Silence. The satellites dimmed. StarkNet returned. The lights flickered back to blue. It was over. Carol collapsed beside Thor, coughing, her skin returning to normal. Tony looked down at his arc reactor, cracked and flickering. Peter dropped beside him, breathless. You okay? Tony exhaled slowly. We won the signal war. Then he looked at the stars. But I don't think we stopped the message. Carol stared at her hands. The glow was gone, but the cold remained. Not physical, deeper, like a memory trapped in her bones. Thor stood beside her in silence. The crater that had been the heart of the compound now smoldered with ruin and regret. Wanda was unconscious. Bruce had passed out mid-sentence. Peter sat on the tower edge, still shaking. And Tony hadn't moved in 10 minutes. He was staring at the stars. Because the virus never wanted Earth. It wanted access. And now it had it. Through Vision's final scream. Through the dying pulse before the mirror dimension sealed. A ripple had escaped. Just one. But in StarkNet's hands, one ripple was enough. Tony pulled a screen from his wrist pad. The satellites were stable. Clean. No corrupted code. But in deep space, past the moon's shadow, a new object had appeared. A signal relay. Not his. Not Earth's. Something answering back. Someone heard it, he whispered. Carol stepped forward. If it reached someone out there, what happens next? I don't know, he said. Depends on who answers. She looked him in the eye. You think it's my fault? He laughed, but there was no humor. It was always my fault. Her voice dropped. I was the one who brought it back. And I was the one who gave it the tools. The frequency. The body. The voice. You were just the carrier. I was the inventor. For the first time, Carol looked small. Then what now? Tony stared at the blackened arc reactor in his chest. He reached in, detached the core, and dropped it to the ground. It didn't hum. It didn't flicker. It was dead. I shut down every Stark signature still connected to Astra. No more suits. No more global net. It all ends now. Peter stood up. Wait, all of it. Tony nodded. All of it. My legacy ends today. Because if I keep building, I keep feeding it. Bruce stirred, groaning. So we're just going analog now? Fighting cosmic threats with sticks and stones? Tony turned to him. No, just not my tech. Thor chuckled. Finally, a future without Stark's toys. Tony smiled faintly. Yeah, let's see how long that lasts. Carol looked at him again. You still kept the code, didn't you? He didn't answer, because she already knew. Deep beneath the ruins, in a vault sealed by biometric encryption, one copy of the Asterisk seed still flickered, encased in vibranium, guarded by protocols not even the virus could decode. Not yet. It pulsed once, and then went dark. Above Earth, in the distant black, a constellation blinked unnaturally. 3 points connected, a triangle of artificial origin, and in its center, a whisper, not in sound, not in words, in code, star code. The reply had begun. Back on Earth, Tony finally turned away from the sky. "This isn't the end," he said quietly. Carol nodded. "No, just the end of the first chapter. The Earth survived. But somewhere in the stars, something was listening. And now, it knew Tony Stark's name and white heavy checkmark.